Hi guys, welcome back to the another episode of Be Remote podcast. For today's episode, we have with us Peter Hopwood. Peter is a global executive speaker coach and TEDx coach. I'm super excited to have you on the podcast, Peter.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I'm glad we're connecting from one part of the world to the other here in Croatia, connecting with you over there in India, and looking
Yeah,
forward to the conversation.
awesome. So tell us more about yourself and how did you, like became a coach? How did you got into this?
Yeah, essentially. So what I do is I help people to and teams and professionals and people who really value communication is really to help them share their stories in a better way, help them find their stories and then deliver those stories. So it could be teams, sales teams, marketing teams, CEOs who just need to share their messages better with more impact by what they say and how they say it. It could be a TEDx speaker who hires me to really make sure that their short moment of fame on a TEDx stage goes really well and they
Mm-hmm.
make the most of it and maximize their time, or simply a founder or a small business owner who just wants to, in terms of taking his career to the next level, get more exposure by sharing his messages in a really stronger and impactful way. So helping people do that, it gives me a chance to meet a lot of people and help a lot of people along the way. And really what I've been doing over the last couple of years now is really helping teams to communicate far better on Zoom, far better on these virtual exchanges, because
Mm-hmm.
we're all in it. So regardless of whether we're a leader, whether we're a CEO, or whether we're somebody else in the company at any level, we're using these virtual exchanges to build trust, to connect, and to get people to listen to us and to do business. So I help people do that better, do that well. So using their voice, using their body gestures, using storytelling to help people to understand things better and to remember their ideas, but essentially helping teams and helping people to get really, really good at this remote kind of communication that we've all been
Yeah,
thrown into.
yeah.
We all think we're good at it because we've been doing it quite a long time, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily the case, because when we do something a lot, we get confident at it, but it doesn't exactly always mean that we do it well. So that's where I come in, and I'm invited by
Mm-hmm.
companies to really help their teams share their messages really well in this remote hybrid world.
Right. So, what do you think is the difference between like meeting virtually and like normal speaking?
Okay, well, the thing is, here in this, when we're in front of a screen, there's certain things that are different,
Mm-hmm.
certain behaviors, certain things we feel which are different. Clearly, we can't see all of somebody in terms of when we're in front of them face to face, because we have all this data that's coming through, and
Right.
that data gives us signals, and those signals mean something, right? But
Yeah.
lots of things are missing. Here in front of the screen, we've only got the camera, a frame, and essentially how we show up. We need to share the same kind of signals to make
Mm-hmm.
sure people can feel the same kind of thing. So in terms of amplifying our messages, that's really important to do. So making sure people can see, for example, our hands. What are we doing with our gestures to make sure they can feel this emotion and feel this animation, and they can feel it within our voice as well. So
Yeah.
it's really amplifying the things we already have in person and just making sure that people can really clearly hear, see, and feel the intention you have. Because often
Mm-hmm.
it's lost. If we're not
Right.
animated, if we're not showing this emotion or not trying to show this emotion,
Mm-hmm.
often it gets lost because it's really difficult for us to see these signals over the screen. Also, another thing when we're speaking through this screen, through these virtual
Mm-hmm.
exchanges, time is so much important now. Time is important anyway. Time is important for everybody, and we all value it
Yeah.
naturally. But over the last couple of years, for you, for me, our time, everybody's time is even more important, because we've got other things that that are on our minds. We've got other things going on naturally. And naturally, when we go in front of a screen, our attention spans are a lot shorter. So when we watch a movie, when we watch Netflix, when we watch even a mobile screen, a mobile phone, looking at your iPhone or whatever phone you have, right? Everything that comes through the screen is usually there to grab your attention.
Right.
So with the movement, with the sound, with the angle shots, with
Right.
even the beeps and the chimes, that the swipes that you can hear when you're on your mobile phone. All of that is designed to grab your attention. We are now part of that. We're in front of a screen. People are looking us at through a screen, and we have to kind of do the same thing. So just you almost changing your mindset, thinking, okay, I'm on a screen now. I have to earn people's attention, because at any time, and people do it, people are still doing it. People are kind of watching a webinar, maybe even on a call, and actually doing something else, looking at their phones, looking at other things.
So actually,
Right?
sorry to interrupt. Like, I wanted to go back to the when you said, like, when we were meeting through Zoom and having a video conversation, but half of the time, some like this conversation are audio as well. So right now we're doing this podcast audio. So how do we convey our message, like, clearly when it's audio? Like, they are listening to you. They like you can listen to me right now, but you're not seeing me, basically. So how does like in this kind of scenario, how does we can build connections and convey our message?
Okay, okay. The first thing we need to identify whether it is actually a call, an audio call, or if it's a Zoom call. A lot of people tend to kind of, and a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of companies, this is kind of accepted in a lot of companies as well, where you don't have to turn your camera on. Right? When you turn your camera off, I only have now your voice. You only have my voice. People are listening to this. They only have the voice. And if they're focused on that, and if we use the voice in a way that's really going to help people understand our messages better, being more concise, clearer, intonation, and you can hear that in my voice right now, and yours as well, right? So that helps us. But when we see someone, when we can see them, and we can see them looking at us, we can see their body gesture, we can see this on their face, their curiosity, we can see their intention towards us. This is one extra level that actually makes a better connection, right? So as soon as you take away visual, we're just left with audio. Now, audio is actually very influential. We can tell a lot from somebody's voice. We can tell a lot how they're feeling, what they want, their intentions, their confidence, their credibility, right? So we can take it all from the voice. But if we've got the visual as well, and we do that well, we do that at a good level, we're actually creating a better chance for people to remember us, a better chance for people to accept us more, and a better chance for us is to get through clearer. Right? So it's almost like saying, okay, you're taking one layer away and you're just left with one line of communication. Now, if that line of communication is really good, then okay, fine. But if it, you can always improve your voice, and you can always improve how you're coming across through the camera. So if you build on those two areas, you're actually increasing both chances. And I've always said it, listen, in this world right now, where we're kind of divided even more in so many ways, on so many levels, in terms of opinions, in terms of perspectives, in terms of demographics, in terms of moving around physically and traveling also. If there's anything that can bring us together, let's do it. Let's use that. Let's maximize that. So when people, let's say, certainly when I'm on a call, and I can see that they're not ready to go on the camera, I ask them politely, listen, it would really benefit us both if we can put the cameras on, because I'd love to see you. I want to see you. I'm interested in you. I'm curious about you. I'm curious about your intentions, what this conversation. And so seeing you is going to help me feel this is more of a natural kind of exchange, rather than just just a blank screen.
Right, right. So I'd like to like tell our audience that the reason we are doing this audio is because we had some internet issues. Otherwise, we would have gone video
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about how can we build meaningful connections virtually, especially as you mentioned about like you are helping teams as well. Like as we are into the remote world now, companies are going remote. Like mostly teams meet virtually, remotely, right? So how can we build meaningful relations with people who haven't even met? We haven't even met, basically.
How we can build meaningful relations
Yeah,
through
meaningful
our virtual
connections. Yeah,
communication.
yeah.
Well, listen, again, we our mindset really, we have to see this
Mm-hmm.
as this format as something which is good, something which is actually a connector, right? Really understanding this as something that can, these virtual exchanges, virtual communication, we do them every single day, we do them all the time. A lot of people are bored of them, a lot of people are fed up with it as
Yeah.
well. But listen, here's the thing. If you look at this as something that you can do well, you can actually see this as almost a competitive advantage, right? Because so many people are not doing this well. So if you start to do it well, first of all, you think to yourself, actually, I'm good at this. The connections I'm making, yeah, the relationships I'm building and the chemistry that's going on here, if I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing that, I'm making sure every time I show up, whether it's for a webinar, whether it's for a team meeting, whether it's leading a meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or whether it's a discovery call, which is
Yeah.
really important. Yeah? These discovery calls, people are making their decisions about us, these snap judgments about us constantly, but more so in that first couple of minutes. So what they see, what they hear, how they feel about you is everything pretty much in this box, right? So
Mm-hmm.
really trying to make sure this box is comfortable. It looks comfortable. It
Right.
feels inviting. It feels warm. It feels like, again, this idea of connection and curiosity, two words which, for me,
Mm-hmm.
are two words which really mean a lot in terms of the training that I share and the clients that I'm working with, really looking at those two words and understanding what they mean and how you can share that connection and curiosity. So if I'm looking at curiosity, we look at that word, I show curiosity to you, automatically going to feel like, oh, this person's interested in me. He wants to know more about my perspective, how I feel about things. And essentially, I'm listening. So the better you can listen, the better you can connect, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
so really showing that curiosity in terms of the questions you're asking, certainly at the beginning of these exchanges, listen, I'm really curious to hear more about X, and X, right? I'd love to hear what you think. I'd love to hear, what's your opinion on X, and X. So asking a question with curiosity, looking curious, can really start to help. The other side of it, again, connection. So even as leaders, right? If we think about leadership, if we think about not just for leaders, but if we think about leadership, we think about words, let's say, of strength, of
Mm-hmm.
confidence,
Yeah.
of setting the tone, of being a role model, of again strength and take people, someone to look up to, and somebody bold and brave and courageous, all those words, right? But in
Yeah.
fact, when it comes to this, the only real word you really need to focus on at the beginning is connection.
Mm-hmm.
And connection, to get connection, you can get it through different ways. You can get it through showing empathy, really understanding how people that are, on the other side of the screen, how
Yeah.
they're feeling about
Right.
things,
Right.
really
Makes sense.
listening to them. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
curiosity. So the more you focus on connection and curiosity, I would say,
Yeah.
that's a start to get people to get this connection going at the beginning of
Mm-hmm.
the calls, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think empathy is super important. It's like really important. Like if you have, like right now I have this internet connection. My today my internet connection is not well, so you have empathized with me and we agreed to do audio podcast. It's a small thing, but it makes
Yeah,
a lot of difference, right?
sure.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, your background is really good. Like as you mentioned about the background as well, like we should have a good background so we can it looks really good and peaceful. Like,
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I mean, we see lots of backgrounds. We see bookshelves. We see not well faint backgrounds where it's an image behind, and whatever works for everybody, right? For me, I like I'd like something natural, something that's simple, something that's not distracting.
Yeah.
It's also like you're coming into my world. And
Yeah.
I'm coming into your world. So,
Right. Right.
I'm here in Croatia, in Split, on the southern coast on the Dalmatian
Yeah.
coast in
Yeah.
Croatia. And this is my home. You're coming here, and I invite you to see part of that, just a small corner, just a square box of that. And so
Right.
if I'm connected with somebody in another country, wherever they are, so seeing them and seeing what's behind them, which is real, it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be anything that is wonderful, just your normal area, which
Yeah.
gives this kind of normality and also comfort as well. Comfort is a really good thing to think about also. So
Right.
a comfortable frame where it could even be intriguing. So it could be you can ask a question. I've got a photo on my right behind me.
Yeah.
Someone, and often people ask, oh, well, what's that photo of? Where is
Right.
that?
Right.
Or
Right.
oh, that looks familiar. Or see a light behind me, maybe again, that's maybe giving this impression that it's warmth, perhaps.
Right. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but the thing is, I think the more natural and the more genuine you are, see the human side coming through these boxes, the
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
human side come through the screen.
So actually, I'm really curious about your photo. Like, what exactly it is? Like, it's kind of, it's really
It's
confusing at the same
actually
time, right?
no, it's just it's sand. I think it's sand underneath the sea. So it's a
Right.
picture taken out of sand,
Mm-hmm.
shallow water, and a picture in the water taken in the sea. But it's a kind of summer feel, and it feels like it's actually where I live. It's close to where I live, near the
Awesome.
beach, and
Mm-hmm.
so that can only make people feel well. When I see it, it makes me feel good. I've got a
Wow.
light here and a few plastic plants, which just gives a nice warm little kind of
Yeah, this
comfort,
is really
homely
good.
feeling.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
really good. So, you must have worked with a lot of people as a coach, right? So, what is the most common problem like they go through in communicating, speaking, and how do we solve? What is the solution that you
Yeah,
provided to them?
yeah. I mean, there's lots of things that pop up, but probably if we were to sort of look at on average,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of the main thing that always seems to pop up is the anxiety and the the confidence, and trying to reduce that anxiety level,
Right.
right? Trying to make
Mm-hmm.
people feel more confident and not focus on what other people feel about you. So this judgment, this anxiety comes from the fear of the perception of people that look at you, the judgment they feel about you. So when we
Mm-hmm.
think of this idea of fear of public speaking, it's actually, if we break it apart, it's actually layers of other things. It's actually fear of rejection,
Mm-hmm.
that people will reject our ideas, fear of rejection of ourselves, that they won't accept us because we're speaking and we feel it's a very personal thing, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's going up on a stage or going up where lots of people can see you, and so their judgment of you might not be positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Critique, they'll criticize you, maybe fear of not belonging to this group of people, maybe
Right.
a fear of feeling like a fool, feeling like an imposter. What right do I have to come up on a stage and share my
Right.
messages to lots of people? Fear
Mm-hmm.
of them thinking that I'm not knowledgeable enough, or I'm
Right.
not an expert, right? So all these things pop up in our minds because it's by default we think of the negative things that pop up. But
Mm-hmm.
in fact, these all come under the umbrella of judgment, right? And we as humans, we are judging people all the time, and we can't stop that. We cannot stop that. People will judge us, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, they actually don't judge us for very long. They judge us, make a snap judgment, and does it actually mean anything? Often it
Mm.
actually doesn't mean anything at all.
Right. Right. Right.
Some people will like this podcast. They'll judge you. They'll
Yeah.
judge me by
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
voice, your voice,
Yeah.
your branding. They'll judge you by, what you look like. They'll
Yeah.
judge you. Some people will judge you from where you're from, unfortunately, and from where I'm from,
Right.
right? Because that's the
Right.
way, unfortunately, the world works. We can't
Exactly.
really change
Exactly.
that. But
Mm-hmm.
what we can do is really focus on the value we're sharing. Really
Mm-hmm.
focus on what we're going to share and how people are going to feel about that content. How can we change people's opinions about something? How can
Right.
we make them feel about a certain topic? How can we change their behaviors in something, perhaps? So looking at the value of what people are going to get from something, you
Mm-hmm.
focus on that. You then can't focus on the other things, on how other people are going to perceive you, right? So what
Right.
I often say to people that certainly that are, let's say, high stakes, where people are on a stage or they have a lot of people watching them and they're really feeling this anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
we switch it around and we sort of look at an idea of letting people judge you. Say to yourself, it's okay. People have the right to judge.
Right.
People have the right not to like you.
Mm-hmm.
Odd, isn't it? But people have that right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
lots of things we don't like and people we don't like. Okay, as I during my career now at my age and where I am right now,
Mm-hmm.
I suspend my judgment a lot more, and but I still judge. I'm still
Right.
judging.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So let people judge you. That's okay. Some people won't like you. Hopefully, majority will trust you. They
Mm-hmm.
don't. Again, the thing is, they don't have to like you
Right. Right.
to trust you. They don't have to like you to see that you have credibility. They don't have to like you to know that you're sharing value.
Mm-hmm.
If they do, and you can manage to do that, you manage to get that connection, certainly at the beginning, the likability connection, then that's even better. That's even better. But if you think about it, think about doctors, you think about a dentist, you think about a lawyer, maybe, people that are in professions where knowledge and expertise is really important. You don't have to necessarily like your dentist to know that he or she's going to do a great job, right?
Right. Right.
Or you don't have to, you don't have to like your lawyer, who, if you pay him or her, whatever fee they want, it's going to actually stop you from, going to jail, right?
Right.
You're gonna trust that person. So it's the same thing. If you can show that you have the credibility, if you show that you're really um, making people feel something and helping them to really grab that value, then
Mm-hmm.
you're on the right track. Even credibility, you don't have to have a lot of credibility to get people to listen to you, to get people to think about stuff, to get people to change their opinion on something,
Right.
right?
Right. Makes sense.
So it's all about that value you're going to share and
Mm-hmm.
getting people to walk away with something that they didn't have at the beginning, something of value for them,
Yeah.
right? And so whether you're somebody with lots of experience, lots of credibility, and a whole career in a certain area, somebody who hasn't can still give value. So remember, you don't have to have
Right. Right.
credibility
Makes sense.
to share value.
And like as you said about liking people, so like not everyone is supposed, like not everyone will like you, and at the same time you also won't like everyone, right? There are certain people who you will like, and there are certain people who will like you. So it's just, I think, part of the world, like that's how it works, like
Yeah.
right.
And remember the other side of it, you might like someone, you might have a good rapport with somebody,
Hmm.
but in fact, the value they're sharing it might not be right for
Right.
you. It
Right.
might not be something that is valuable, which
Totally.
is fine, which
Mm-hmm.
is totally fine, So it's all about looking at what you want. And if you're looking for that likability, and some people try maybe too hard for that, then
Mm-hmm.
fine. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, what people essentially want, it depends. Again, it depends on what the context is. If it's, let's say a stand-up comedian, what people
Mm-hmm.
want, what value do they want? They want to feel good and laugh, right?
Yeah.
They want
Yeah.
to feel amused. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to like the comedian really, but they have to, but if they like the jokes and they like what that person's sharing, then that's the value they're going to get, right? But if
Mm-hmm.
I'm at a conference or on a webinar, and this webinar there's a title that clearly it's a title and a topic that I'm interested in and I want value from and I want to learn something. By the end of it, if I've liked the people that are on that panel, if I've enjoyed the conversation, fantastic. But at the end of the day, I want to walk away after that webinar with value, with something that has really helped me, that's going to help me think about things differently, perhaps, or change my behaviors, perhaps, or a strategy that's going to change something in my business, or whatever it is. But I really, you can even, you can, something that's made you laugh, let's say, in a webinar, fantastic, a great, feel good webinar. And if that's the goal of the webinar, and if it's made you feel better, and because you weren't feeling great before, then that's good. But if you went to that webinar thinking, I'm setting out 25 minutes, 30 minutes of my time for this webinar right now, by the end of it, I want this, and you haven't got it connected with the title and what the description and the value that was shared at the beginning, if you haven't got that, then clearly, it's not actually been as productive as it could have been.
Sure. Makes sense. So I would like to talk about like a storytelling, like the essence of storytelling. I think you have mentioned like how leaders can use it to create like stronger impact, right? So the message that they share. So like how can we do this like as a leaders, and how to also become a better storyteller, like especially virtually?
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole podcast on this. I mean, this is part of really what the training that I share is all about, in terms of half days, full days, 2 days, working with leaders, really to help them tap into how storytelling can help them and naturally help their audience get a stronger perception of the content and of the ideas that they share. But really, if we boil it right down, storytelling, there's so many benefits of when we share stories to our listeners. When we share a story, first of all, it helps our listeners have intrigue. It's unpredictable. So if you think about a story, or think about something that's happened to you, something that's happened to somebody else, as soon as you start talking about it, people listen because it's unpredictable. They don't know what's happening, right? So we can certainly, as leaders, that's one of the ways we can get people to listen to us. And remember, storytelling essentially is all about emotions. It's all about how people feel, and we're sharing moments of emotion, right? That's happened to us, other people. And if those moments of emotion we can relate to, right, and we can understand how people feel, and it's relatable, because emotions are probably the quickest thing for all of us on this planet to feel related to, right? So if I can talk about all different things, about football, about movies, about remote working, about all different topics. But when I talk about emotions, this is clearly everybody on this planet can relate to those emotions, can understand or can imagine how those emotions make them feel, right? So you get those emotions together with a message, wrap those emotions around a clear message you want to share, then that's how people are going to listen to you more and relate to you more. And once you connect, so I was talking about connection before, with emotions, that's a way of connecting, and stories help us do that. Stories can always help us do that. And these stories, they don't have to be long stories. In fact, in a virtual setting, we have to see this as kind of mini storytelling, mini story, little bit short, sharp, concise. That's what we have to do in virtual. Everything is shorter, sharper, and more concise, because people don't have the time, right? So our stories, we have to share moments of emotion that have happened to us as leaders, other people, and perhaps in the company, our clients, our customers, the stories of how they felt about why they bought the product, why they're buying that service. Maybe they had a challenge before they bought the service, they're enjoying the service, and now the end result, the story of the end result is really the magic wand, and what they, the magic at the treasure at the end of the rainbow, because that's really what you're trying to do, and trying to help them figure out. So as I say, emotions, really tapping into emotions, which is what stories are all about. They don't have to be long, they don't have to be epic, they don't have to be climbing up a mountain and then, or Olympic winners, or from, rags to riches, that kind of story. You don't even have to go into that at all. All you have to do is just think, okay, how can these moments of emotion that have happened to me, whoever, other people, clients, competitors, team members, whoever, how is that going to get people to understand how that is relatable to them, and also the message, the clear message, getting them thinking about a message that is connected with what the key points you want to share.
Right. That makes sense. Totally. So, I wanted to ask, like, what kind of resources, like, which can help people to get better while in virtual meetings, like virtual speaking, or are there any of your favorite resources or tools which you use?
No, listen, it's in terms of tools, in terms of resources. Remember, this is a very natural, although this is very technical, naturally, because it's
Yeah.
through a screen, through a camera.
Yeah.
It's a human thing. It's a really human idea.
Yeah.
So the better you get at being aware of yourself, being aware of how you show up, practicing looking through that screen and really shaping that box in the way that you want to. The great thing about this also is that what you see is you're in complete control of what people see and what people hear. If we met in person, or if you're at a conference looking at somebody giving a talk, or if you're at a meeting, there are many things going on. Clearly, your focus is on the person speaking, but there's the background, there's the sunlight, there's the chairs, there's the other people in the room, there's the coughs, there's the breathing, there's the door, somebody comes in with coffees, or all different things, right? Here, your focus is I can control completely what people see in this frame, as we spoke about before, and how people feel about me as well, right? So seeing this as more of in terms of tools and resources, look at this as your investment in how you're aware of yourself and how you show up and what people see. This is your key focus. If you can work on that and improve that, and ask other people how they, show them a screenshot, or maybe go on Zoom with them and say, listen, what do I look like? How do I sound? What's the feeling you get here? So that's I would say really important. Again, in terms of the equipment, lighting is really important. So the better you see someone, when there's light, we just have this impression that it's more positive, it's good, it feels good. So the lighter, not lighter the better, but make sure there's enough light to make sure that you're not in darkness, or don't feel like you're in darkness. Sound, as we spoke about before, is really important. The better quality sound, the better the clearness will be better, and you have a better feeling. When the sound isn't good, then when there's crackling, or when there's something not quite right, then in our brains, when we hear that voice, it's a distraction, isn't it? It's actually quite annoying, isn't it? Even when there's something not quite right with sound, or you can't hear enough, So all these small things, good quality sound, good lighting, good frame, all these things will get you off on the right track for when people first see you and make that judgment about who you are and whether they should continue listening.
Right. Makes sense. Totally. So which are your top 3 favorite books when it comes to building connections, speaking?
Top 3, that's a difficult question, because there's lots of different, but that's a really tough question to answer right now, because I've got a lot. I'm looking at my bookshelf down there. I've got lots of different kind of books. Some of them are actually on presentation skills. Some of them, actually quite a few of them, are not actually to do with presentation skills, more about mindset and more about how we see ourselves, how we accept ourselves and how we see the world, right? Because
Right.
this is, again, this is public speaking, speaking in public, sharing our messages. The more awareness we have, the better we can evaluate how we are and how we can improve the perception we're sharing,
Right.
right? And so this story in our head about ourselves is so important, because that controls everything. How we
Yeah.
see ourselves is a reflection of what we're sharing, right?
Yeah.
So so a lot of the books on my shelf are pretty much about mindset and about the emotional side and psychological side of life, really. So it sounds a little bit deep, but yeah, those are really what you would find on my bookshelf right now.
Awesome. So like any book still like that you'd recommend, maybe, or one book which could like help people, if it's like, if anything is coming to your mind.
Yeah, actually, I've got one right here. I mean, you can't see this, but I'm putting it up to the screen,
The
and it's
Power of
actually called
Us.
The Power
Okay.
of Yes, right? So it's an interesting book, because although we're kind of we're encouraged to say yes more, and we should be saying yes more generally, because it opens up more doors,
Right.
and there's more opportunities. And no is kind of like a safe word, isn't it? Because it's not, you don't have to change anything, and you don't have to you can't really move forward always, but being a safe place sometimes is the best option.
Yeah.
But here for me, it's like, after reading that, I kind of realized that saying yes more is a good thing, but not saying yes to everything,
Right.
right? Being
Right.
careful, and you can say no to lots of things. And maybe sometimes, if you're someone that says yes to a lot of things, or you've always said yes to, sort of almost like a people pleaser, and
Yeah.
saying yes too many times, saying no, creating your boundaries, let's say,
Right. Right.
or being safe with what you've got, sometimes, depending on the context, could be the absolutely right decision. So it's just sort of like having an open mind and looking at how you can say yes more to things, and not taking risks more, I would say, and opening doors more, and
Right.
not being afraid of what's on the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's an important decision to make, like whom to say yes, whom to say no to, because like a lot of people are saying like you should say no, but there are something which you should say yes to as well. So yeah, I think you have to figure it out for yourself by being aware about what is important and what is not important for yourself.
You got it. You
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah. So how do our audience should like reach out to you for like coaching, or how should companies reach out to you?
Yeah, really simply, LinkedIn, find me on LinkedIn, Peter Hopwood Speaking, or Peter Hopwood Speaker, Peter Hopwood Public Speaking. You will find me. Have a look at everything I'm doing, all the different, you'll find, I'm sure you'll find it by the time this comes out, you'll find the podcast,
Yeah. Yeah.
a link to that as well. Many other things that I've been doing, and I'll be doing in the future as well. You feel like I can help your team, perhaps. You feel like there's something that was said in this conversation with you right now that can actually bring value to your teams, whether it's feeling more confident in front of the screen, whether it's really looking at storytelling to move forward and grab people's attention more, or generally a bit of everything to make sure that you can get really good at these remote exchanges over Zoom or whatever platform you're doing. Reach out to me, say that you've listened to this podcast. Let's jump on a quick Zoom call, and then we can explore if this is actually the right thing for you and your team, and really help different teams, sales teams, marketing teams move in the right direction.
Makes sense. Totally. Awesome. So is there any last message you have for like virtual teams from your side? Like, yeah.
The only last thing I would say is, and you can probably gather this already, but remember, when you start, actually not just when you start, your energy and your warmth actually means so much, much more than you think on these virtual exchanges. Your energy and your warmth, and so we can even take that further onto other words like your curiosity, your intention,
right,
and the way you want to connect really means so much more here than in person. And if you can work on those and you can think about those words and think how you're going to share that and how you're going to share your energy. So when you totally begin, you greet with your energy and your warmth. You start with that and you'll get off into the right foot.
Awesome. I think this is a very important point. So thank you so much, Peter. This was really amazing talking to you. I think in a like short amount of time, we got a lot of insights and value from you. I think anyone who's listening to our podcast, especially who is working remotely, I think they will get a tremendous value. And you know the tips which you have given, like the small tips which could make a huge difference. And people kind of know this, or they might know that yeah, I can do this, but they never try doing it. So maybe while listening to this podcast, they will try to make those differences, and
I hope so.
it
I
will
hope so. Again, it's just
help
small
them.
things, small little differences, small
Yeah,
things you can do straight away, like straight after this,
exactly.
tomorrow. You can do them, try them,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
then you'll see, because you're doing it all the time, you'll see that there is a difference, and you'll see that your connections, you'll make these better connections, and then hopefully that will lead, well, eventually it actually will lead to better connection, and then hopefully increase the chances of
right,
better outcomes and better
right.
business.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again, Peter. It was really amazing talking to you.